Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to see you. My name is Dustin Cormier, and this is How to Rock Astrology. Today, we are going to be talking about a person who has the Sun in Gemini with Mars in Capricorn. This makes for an interesting combination. There is much being brought out of this Mars that is really the most sexual place possible for Gemini. One of the things we can say, I guess I should say first of all, if you want to hear more about Mars in Capricorn and what Mars being exalted in Capricorn brings to this sign and to every sun sign where the chart has Mars exalted, then check out our Mars in Capricorn video at the start of this part of the series. There's a lot of good to be said about this combination. Gemini and Capricorn can get along in a certain way. Saturn and Mercury are natural friends with each other, so the agenda of these two are in a certain alignment, which can make for some interesting, kinky, mental fun in play in bed, which the Capricorn knows has the sensual animal passion to deliver bodily on, to have the willpower to do, but also has a discernment and a detachment, a rational mind that can get and affirmatively see through all of the kinky little wanderings that the Gemini mind can have. So I'm going to talk about my own little spiel on this, and then we're going to hear from Erotic Astrology by Phyllis Vega. One of the key things that I want to speak to is the fact that I'm a tropical Vedic astrologer. There's two key things I really want to mention. I'm a tropical Vedic astrologer, and I use Vedic philosophy, but with Western measurements. I use Western measurements, so I don't go back a sign like the sidereal Vedic people do. I use the same measurements and dates and everything in degrees as Western tropical people, but I understand Vedic philosophy and how they think about horoscopes, and I try to pepper that into all of these readings that I do. Now, in Vedic astrology, it's something that's commonly done, not as common as the moon. The moon is a huge, given way more credence in Vedic astrology than it is in the West. But something that they do in Vedic astrology is that they can consider that anything can be a certain house from anything. Anything can be considered an ascendant sign of its own. So the example I'm trying to draw for you here is that if we were to consider the sun in Gemini, this is called Surya Lagna, Surya ascendant chart, Surya being the sun. If we were to consider Gemini as the ascendant, Mars in Capricorn would be in the 8th house from that Gemini sun. 8th house relates to Scorpio and to sexuality. Now, that's a good place for Mars. Mars deals naturally with Mars and Scorpio as its own sign. So Mars in the 8th house from anything is taking care of the loose parts of that planet in a strong way. It uses its rational, logical, reasoning mind to grip the chaos that represents that 8th house. Mars is already exalted in Capricorn, which means it's very capable of doing whatever it's doing in anyone's chart who has Mars in Capricorn. The fact that this sun in Gemini has Mars in the 8th house from itself and it's exalted shows that this person has a great way of somehow assembling and gripping the psychic backdrop of the nature of Gemini, of that sun in Gemini. Capricorn is the 8th house of Gemini, naturally. So for someone to have Mars there's an enticement towards the unknown, towards conquest, and towards the sexual capacities that Gemini best expresses. Gemini is a very analytical mind. It's mental arithmetic, mental patterns derived from thought power. And thought power, the fact that Capricorn is the 8th house from Gemini, shows that the type of thought power that Capricorn is hard for Gemini to bring together, because the 8th house energy is a tough energy for anyone, for anything. So Geminis have scattered thoughts. When it comes to the psychic attainment of conquest of Capricorn, when they try to get Capricorn, it feels like this permeable barrier, like, because Gemini is so scattered, to climb a hierarchical goal or pole really requires a scorpionic plunging into the unknown, because Gemini usually works by what it knows. But if it wants to work in the world of Capricorn, it's the world of universal standards, industrial standards, people all checking each other based on these standards. The fact that Mars is exalted in the 8th house from Gemini shows that Mars has a natural grip on the unknown feeling of Gemini trying to conquer things. So that's why this is a Gemini that's probably very talented at exploring their own psyche, their own unconscious, or even getting into relationships and dating with a lot of people and pushing past their feelings like they don't know how to respond, pushing past the feeling like they don't know where the situation's going to go. It's even sexy. It might even turn you on to be in a situation on a date with someone where you don't know where the conversation's going to go. There's some mysterious open door towards something that is like interesting or fun and exciting and brings out a genuine energy, which is especially manifest in the bedroom. You as a Gemini already have a scattered mind, and there's a kinky mind in every Gemini. And every Gemini just caters naturally to a mental, cerebral lightness with sex. They don't it's because of the scattering, the outgoing nature of the sun is being scattered into the many fascinations of Mercury and of Gemini. The sun is still doing good here because it's still close to Aries. So it gains a lot of energy by the confidence and playboy sort of intrigue that we all know of Gemini. Gemini can be masculine. It can stand up for itself and go for what it wants to do. Although it communicates and it's real. There's a wittiness that's real in Gemini. And they can laugh at themselves. And this is why the fact that the sun is still in close proximity to Aries here. It's only a sextile away from Aries, its exaltation point. Exaltation works by proximity. So this sun in Gemini, even though it's kind of getting scattered by Gemini, it's still being enriched by being pretty close to Aries. And as well, the Mars in this person can grip whatever goals it has. So it doesn't just waste its energy away. It has goals, it has ideas of what it wants to do, and it succeeds in getting them. Now with this Gemini sun, this is a person who can have lots of different sexual styles and abilities and like postures, and they're sort of like a Kama Sutra type of tantric, where they want to try all the different postures. And the Mars in Capricorn is very diligent and capable of seeing through to the end of every posture, of every role play, of every fantasy, every intrigue, watching a certain porno with a certain vibe and getting it through, and then like doing that same thing and following it through. So the Mars in Capricorn here is a research mind because it's in the 8th house from the sun and it's exalted, which means it's very good at achieving something. Mars in Capricorn will almost always achieve something. And the Gemini could spin and have different ideas of where they ought to achieve, what they ought to achieve, how they ought to do it. But Mars in Capricorn is very diligent. It only associates with people that, like Mars in Capricorn has this quiet countenance. There's a reserve there. Even though the Gemini mind can be kinky and just sort of like all over the place in a certain way. It's the reaction, the neuroprogramming of this person is pitted towards diligently being disciplined in the fire of confrontation and of conquest and of permeating unknown barriers. It's that 8th house energy of that Mars being in the 8th house from the sun. This person has a diligent, fixed concentration on permeating the barriers to their own enjoyment and connection and ambition of the sun energy. So this person could sow some wild oats, but there's lots of potential here for them to attain many of the, especially the skills that the Gemini, this is a Gemini who applies themselves to exploring probably sexual positions if sex is this important to you and if you're interested in this sort of thing. You can apply your mind to different sexual thrills and feelings and places and wanderings. It's always different. But while it is always different, and every time you make love to you, you're going to always be different about it. But the Mars and Capricorn will have certain skills, certain techniques that will always bring both of them into a state of ecstasy. And then it's the Gemini kinky mind that can move this ecstasy in different ways while still being diligently firm, having a firm grasp on the your musculature in the action, your calm, rational mind and reason. So when you're doing a role play and you're the pizza guy and you're rocking and rolling with whoever your partner is, and they're playing this role play, and you're in this thing too, you're not going to call them by their real name. You're going to do the thing and play it, and even maybe just like squeeze them and enjoy it and call them the character name. It's because Gemini, sex is such an animal thing that a lot of Geminis get to that point and they're like, oh baby, yeah, and then they're like, squeezing you, and the fiction loses its friction because of sex is so wild that you lose your capacity to stay disciplined, especially because the sun in Gemini vital energy is dissipating with the scatteredness of Gemini. It's moving and it's just not necessarily usually fixed enough to see through a whole role play. But this Mars in Capricorn is going to make sure that it sees it the whole way through, then it can rationally look functionally at how that played out and think to itself, that worked, that didn't. What am I going to continue with and what am I going to let go in my next sexual episode? This can make for an incredibly progressive, powerful lover who's constantly building on the best of their techniques. Because Gemini wants to employ them all in all different ways, and they will because of this Mars in Capricorn. So this is a very wandering, possibly kinky, explorative, spontaneous lover who can be willful but also submissive. You don't need to be dominant just because you got this Mars in Capricorn. When you want to be the bottom person, you have a real powerful way of talking to the person, talking to your top person or your dominating person, how to spin the whole thing to get the most out of both of you in whatever role you do choose, if you're a role person, which Gemini very typically will be. This is a person who just, even if you're switch and you like to apply a dominating role, the Mars and Capricorn will grip that posture for both of you. But then if you, even in that session or later in another session, you want to be more of a submissive, receptive, wandering, making the other person's fantasies come true and this sort of thing, then you'll change there because the Gemini mind likes that change, but the Mars and Capricorn will grip whatever is the current posture or intention for this sexual practice. And then when we switch on the next one, let me know what it is, communicate it to me, and I will stick it the whole way through. So the Gemini overall is getting variety, but the Mars in Capricorn is not letting go of the experiment while they're in it. And this is true in their sexual life as well as, in their professional life. They could probably be a person who talks to a business advocate for another business, and they're like, well, let's go out for lunch and talk about it. And they go for lunch and they will, this is just one of Gemini's many acquaintances who they've met, and they will talk deeply in depth about a whole possible thing. And then the Gemini will say, well, that was very deep, refreshing, fulfilling. I'll call you in a few days if this meeting was important enough for us to venture further. And then the Gemini will talk to another business person and go completely deep into some other thing. Talk to another person the next day, go completely deep into that. And they'll take all these little things in their business life, their professional life, and then the Capricorn will see it all. All the experiences that the Gemini has gained. And the Mars in Capricorn says, great, What is the most priority, logical, rational, conventional way for me to get success with all the data that I've been given? So it's a deadly combination for attainment and even sexuality, exploration, and kink and these sorts of things. It's a pretty cool, juicy vibe. I like to talk about this just because I've been having this very optimistic vibe for all the Mars and Capricorn readings, because Mars and Capricorn really does so much to, as we've been saying in the other videos, to rein in the yin Saturnian rational reason of Capricorn. Does a great job of reducing the animal impulsiveness of Mars, the outgoing impulsiveness of Mars, in a way that keeps Mars vital but channels it into constructive channels, not willy-nilly destructive tendencies. So that was some fun stuff just talking about Gemini in general. What I want to do now is we're going to read from Erotic Astrology by Phyllis Vega. We're going to hear a little bit about the turn-ons and turn-offs of Gemini. This is more strictly Gemini Sun. After this, we're going to include through the same author a reading that combines the Mars and Capricorn with the Sun and Gemini. For now, this is the turn-ons and turn-offs of Gemini Sun. There's no doubt for the Gemini that a major erogenous zone is your head, cerebral, mental, Mercury. Nothing turns you on faster or more completely than wit and charm, and you are aroused by erotic words and clever, evocative quips. And this is a Mars in Capricorn who has the ability to apply yourself to the knowledge of how language works, to constantly hack at trying different spontaneous expressions of this and this. I mean, you might not always be spontaneous, but whatever linguistic fun that you do apply and your wit and charm, the Gemini wit will always come through, but it won't be as loose and splashy as most Geminis. It's a person who's more deliberate about what they say and when they say it, so that they don't look like their tongue is loose. Phone sex must have been invented by a Gemini. The same goes for the hot and heavy sexual banter that takes place in online chat rooms and via email. These are all Gemini, remember, right? Although you, as a Gemini, respond amorously to tactile pleasures, it's sharing your erotic thoughts and dreams with your lover that really gets you going. Lusty words, yours or your partner's, engage your vivid imagination and inflame your libido. The Gemini nature is so changeable that it's difficult to say exactly what you will like from one sexual encounter to the next. The Gemini just changes it up constantly. The twins' aversion to boredom is legendary. Although, again, let's always remember that this Mars and Capricorn in you is really going to allow you to have the discipline to push through your mental nature that can become bored. You can sit through and cut through that if it's worth it for you, if your mind deems it rationally logical and reasonable. Because that's how Mars exalted works. So, you do consider variety the most important ingredient in lovemaking, and you thrive on innovation and versatility. Restless and perpetually on the go, Gemini, the typical Gemini, has a somewhat nervous temperament. Sex play relaxes you, and soaking in a tub or a spa with your partner prior to lovemaking helps to soothe your jangled nerves. Since you were born under the most unpredictable sign in the zodiac, the only thing your lover can truly count on is that anything is possible. Not only is anything capable of possible to happen, but anything is actually possible with this person. They can, because Mars is exalted in Capricorn in the 8th from the Sun, I mean, again, it's just the sun. The sun Surya Lagna chart I was talking about is not as important as the moon chart or as your actual ascendant. But the fact that this is channeling the 8th house of the sun just goes to show that, like anything, this is a person who is very capable of, like, pushing through the angst and tension of an unknown, odd situation, because it's that 8th house energy from the sun. And they can push themselves through any type of thing that's unfamiliar to them and make it familiar. An adventurous lover. You long to please and be pleased. If you don't know what your partner likes, as a Gemini sun, you ask. Delicious, juicy consciousness. This is one of the better combinations, I think, especially because one thing I just realized I kind of neglected to say here is that Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Saturn, which is the dispositor of Mars here, Saturn is ruled by Capricorn. Saturn rules Capricorn. So Gemini's Lord Mercury and Capricorn's Lord Saturn are best friends in Vedic astrology. So the sun being tuned to Mercury gets along with Mars, which is attuned to Saturn here. Saturn's more of like responsible outer material world leanings, whereas Mercury is about fun but still like managerial excess money management and movement. Money that's kind of coming in, like income, like immediate usable money that needs to be managed. Capricorn goes for responsibilities and basic baseline survival securities, which supply the mercurial energy. Mercury is how we manage it. And so the sun in Mercury, being the managerial type of money conscious person that it is, bodes well for the detached, unemotional perspective of the Mars in Capricorn here. Which is useful in life as well as in sex, because the Gemini sun keeps sex at an arm's length, and it has fun with it and is playful with it and isn't too emotional about it. Mars in Capricorn is the same way, although they add passion, they add animal magnetism and spontaneity, but the Mars in Capricorn is also keeping the sex at an arm's length in order that they can apply their mind to it in the most artful way possible. Now, that was a lot about I was really trying to focus on just Gemini sun there with the reading, although I added my own idea of the Mars in Capricorn. But now, this is actually a reading in this book talking specifically about Sun in Gemini with Mars in Capricorn. So this is the author Phyllis Vega, same kind of book, same reading, bringing the whole picture together with this combination. So this is the erotic nature of the Sun in Gemini with Mars in Capricorn. You have a friendly, outgoing manner and a way with words that attracts many interesting acquaintances. Where romance is concerned, you tend to analyze everything about a potential partner before even considering an alliance. How am I going to enjoy this person? How are we going to get along? Are they going to behave in a way that works with the way I naturally behave? Are we going to enjoy it? Do they communicate well? Are they communicating in a way that would ever screw me over? That's something that Mars in Capricorn thinks about. Are they always going to be there for me to help me advance in moments where I should and could use that? These are things that the Mars in Gemini pushes their these are things that this particular personality would push their partner to be and to do. Really, it's up to your moon and Venus and your receptivity in relationship and how important relationships really are to you. That will define whether you get the type of partner that you really seek. But ultimately, you seek people or even sexual people to be with who will push each other to get the best out of the sexual experience in that way, or the best out of any experience, any date, any venture. It'll be adventurous, but also satisfying, realistic, within limits that will always guarantee a good time. It's just because that's just how Mars and Capricorn works. In public, you do shy away from displays of affection, but the privacy of the bedroom brings out your steamy sensuality. You yearn for a physical relationship that takes you and your lover to the heights of passion. However, for this to happen, your mind must be stimulated along with your body. The privacy of the bedroom brings out a steamy sensuality in the Mars and Capricorn. That Gemini is on top of it, finding different ways of swirling it around, that Kama Sutra vibe. How do I put my body, your body, position it in a different way so that the energy brings of itself its own unfolding changes? It's very Gemini stuff. Yeah, so this makes for a juicy lover. I think this is one of the better sexual combinations available out there. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope you agree with me. That's all for our reading today. It turned out to be a long one, but that's just how it goes. My name's Dustin Cormier. So if you guys enjoyed this, feel free to drop a like, say something, ask me a question in the comments, say hello, let me know what you think, because I'm always curious. And if you did enjoy this, and if you did find that this video, that my thing works for you, feel free to subscribe as well, because I've always got more stuff cooking up on my channel. I'm always bridging more of the divide between Western and Vedic astrology, and I think eventually I'm even going to be doing more of these sexual combination videos. I'm looking towards, eventually after all this, I'm going to do some Moon and Venus signs, finding what's it like when you combine your Moon sign with your Venus sign together in romance and sexuality. So stay tuned for that, folks. I'm Dustin Cormier. This is How to Rock Astrology. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.